Good afternoon, friends, and thank you for tuning into the Optimal Health program today. It's a wonderful Saturday here, and we're excited to be back on and talking with you about your concerns. A lot of great information to talk about today. RFK, Superman, hero. Love the things that he's doing. We'll chat about what we've seen and what he's been talking about. We'll talk about testing your vitamin, mineral, hormone levels. How I'm going to uniquely prepare custom vitamins for patients based upon their blood test, based upon their condition. You don't have to go out and do crazy things and buy 30 bottles of things all over the place and not know what you're doing, not hit the nail on the head. We're going to do that perfectly with our new vitamin pack. Always want to talk about things and give people information so that they could think about, going forward, what they're going to do with their diet. We talk about glycation. We'll talk about that again. How sugar damages your cells, your proteins, every part of your body, your blood vessels, your nerves, and how to keep the carbs down and tight in your body, what foods you can substitute with to be able to stay away from high-carb diets. And I love the fact that when people kind of give me feedback of how they're doing with the diet or the vitamins or the exercise, any of the things that we do or we talk about, whether in office or, on the program, it's great to get the feedback from people to see how happy they are that the things that they've been dealing with for so long are changing and changing nicely. We have thousands of patients that once they change their diet, bloating goes away, headaches go away, they start to lose weight because, again, we're learning everything about your body and putting together the perfect recommendation to get your results. So, of course, these things are going to happen. If you'd like to call in to ask a question today, you can do so, 888-420-9272, 888-420-9272. And we have a lot of wonderful people on our platforms here. As you may have known, a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday, we hit an all-time high, which I think may have been even higher than the numbers we were getting on my radio program for the 35 years. And through Frankie's persistence and work behind the scenes, he was able to get us to Rumble and LFA live from America. And we had 115,000 people watching my program, which is spectacular. So really excited about that. We'd love to talk to people from Rumble, LFA, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, Spotify. I don't know. We're on 20 different platforms, I think. I don't want to miss anybody, but we love to take your calls and help you out, give you some cool info. Also, I want you to think a little differently than you've been trained to think by media. Evil media. Who said that? And traditional medicine. Traditional medicine. So that you can take control of your health and be healthy and strong and happy and getting results rather than, being on meds and not getting anywhere. I see this all the time. For 37 years, talking to patients and getting them to eat right, exercise, teaching them stuff, giving them articles to read, that back and forth is terrific. It becomes camaraderie. And now I talk to patients today. I spoke with a lovely woman who was talking about, family and when her family first came over, and she's Italian. I think her husband's Irish, but very smart for him to marry an Italian woman, of course, because of all the good food and, the passion and all that. But at any rate, talking about what it was like when her family came over and everything was fresh food and, people were coming down the street. The vendors would come down and sharpen the knives and you can get vegetables and the person bringing meat, down the street on a cart. You can get everything fresh and perfect. And I wish I could go back in time and see what that was like. You see that in some of the great movies. Godfather Part 2, there's a couple of great scenes where, Vito and the gentleman who is giving the lady and her dog an apartment, they have a little bit of a back and forth. And you see, little kiosks, little homemade kiosks where people are selling their food. What a brilliant thing that must have been. Would have been great to see that. So, yeah, we try to get engaged in great conversation about all sorts of things, which is what a doctor should be doing.
And I'll just say shout out to Rumble. We got everyone saying, "Hey, Dr. Chris, welcome back."
Awesome.
We have someone else. Someone else just said, "This is great." They said, "A strong and healthy person is what the world needs."
Yep.
We agree.
Absolutely. So that's why I talk to people about all sorts of things, not just, medicine or health or medications, or diet. It's just bringing everything into bear, and their kids and what the kids are doing, and their pets. So we talk about a lot of things with patients. I think that's important. So we'll take your calls and your questions right now, 888-420-9272. We have a lot to get to. I'm totally thrilled, once again, with RFK Jr. and what he's doing, as everybody should be. And if anybody isn't thrilled with this, there's something radically wrong with you. Getting rid of the dyes and the chemicals in foods is a wonderful thing. This should have been done many years ago. So you don't need the blue dye, the red dye, the yellow dyes. These things are damaging to your health. And it's funny that other countries don't allow this, but the food manufacturers that make for us and for other countries, here we have it, there they don't. So I think he's doing an amazing thing.
What blows my mind, Doctor, is that, I understand, I don't understand it as far as poisoning our children, but I understand the logic of, let's make things nice and bright so kids, want it. But what I don't understand is how much medication has dyes in it, the gel caps, to make it. What is the point of that? It's insane.
Everything is sales. Everything is a visual, sometimes an auditory, a tactile sense. Everything is meant to get you interested in something, whether it's conscious or subconscious, subliminal messaging. That's what sales is all about. Someone once said, and it may have been someone famous, if not, it could have been me, because I kind of think of myself as famous sometimes. Advertising is what happens when someone wants you to buy something you don't need or you don't want. So the extra color in the junk food and all of this or that is meant to be attractive, and packaging is attractive, and the extra salt or dye or chemical in the food or sugar or fat, makes it more palatable. So this is what people get hooked on. And don't forget, cigarettes have been around for a very long time. And we know what the cigarette companies have been doing, and there's 4,000 chemicals in cigarettes. So up until relatively recently, they were able to advertise anywhere and everywhere at sporting events. And kids were seeing all this thinking that, cigarettes were okay. And, only recently has that been stopped. But it's just insane that all of this brainwashing has been occurring, for many years in our country. So that people get these things. Many years ago, this doctor friend of mine who put up signs in his office. Now, these were actual advertisements, and they had famous people, actors and actresses, or doctors saying, I smoke this cigarette because it makes me feel smooth and cool and relax me. Of course, that was before those things were banned and frowned upon, because we know that, cigarette smoke and the chemicals in cigarette smoke, are linked to dozens of cancers. So, yeah, on one hand, at least people like this, RFK Jr., are trying to make us healthier, making the world a better place for us to be able to eat healthy foods. Anybody who's gone to Europe or South America, you're really eating great quality food. And you can taste the difference. People go there on a vacation, they eat more, but they lose weight compared to eating food here. I had a girlfriend years ago that I dated, and she was from Brazil. And her best friend was the girlfriend of one of my friends. So we met, we hit it off. I couldn't speak Portuguese, and she didn't speak a lot of English, but, when she was learning to speak English, she went to Hunter College in the city. The nicest, sweetest girl you could meet. And I was talking to her about different things, and I said, look, this is organic. Talking about food, went to a store to buy something. She goes, organic? She goes, what does that mean? In her broken English. I said, it's got no chemicals in it. She says, well, does that mean all the other food has chemicals in it? I'm like, yeah. She goes, that's horrible. She goes, we don't have organic in Brazil. Everything's organic in Brazil. I said, well, it's true. It's right. So you have to understand what's being done to, affect us negatively. And that's, what's happening in a wide range of ways. At least, the awakening is happening, and people are understanding about bad things in foods and bad chemicals. So we're getting there.
Oh, we're getting there.
Okay, let's get some questions up on the air.
People are very hyped about these changes going on.
It's a wonderful thing, and we're way overdue for this. And I saw something that the company said, we want to comply, we want to do this. And we were just talking about this a moment before we got on the air, that these companies are making these chemical-free foods for other countries, but we're getting all the crap still in these foods. So, they want to now come to the table and do the right thing. Why wouldn't they take these things out of those foods in the first place? As soon as the Council, the European countries, said to take them out, why didn't they do that for us?
Crazy. And someone in the chat is saying that Russia does not allow bio food in their country. Yeah, the biological food. Neither does
Absolutely.
Europe. Neither does, yeah.
Italy has banned fake meat and all this other garbage. So I think it's amazing. It's wonderful to see that. And I think as every other country follows that, you're going to get this massive movement towards just getting healthier food for all people. Certainly kids especially. Because if the kids in school are eating this garbage, they can't end up being healthy. And there was also some studies and some comments on ADD with kids eating all this garbage and the dyes and the colorings and the super sugary things. So, we're at the beginning of a revolution, which is it's wonderful.
Yeah, and it is wild, as a kid, there was always like these certain kids, it's like, well, this kid's out of control.
Yeah, totally.
And now it's like, that kid had no problems. That guy was just ingesting poison.
Yeah. Ingesting all the bad stuff. So, at least we're on a good roll here. Okay, let's see. We've got a couple of emails from patients in the office, and John wants to know about hair loss, and his hair's been thinning for a couple of years, and we talk about your hair needing and having requirements for all sorts of things: proteins, vitamins, minerals, hormones. To a certain extent, some hormones in excess would be bad for your hair, like testosterone, if you have the genetic concern, the androgenetic alopecia. But every organ of your body, every cell of your body needs oxygen, vitamins, minerals, and hormones to function. So when we talk about trying to improve your hair, I'll put together, based upon the blood test, a combination of things. Maybe get a little more protein in your diet, maybe using protein powders, first thing in the morning. Have that either within a smoothie, you can put it into your coffee, you can put it into cashew milk yogurt, keeping your carbs down, of course. Collagen peptides are great for your hair, your skin. Some people need more biotin, other people need more vitamin D. Some individuals do well with chia seeds. And for a lot of people, I tell them to make a little bit of oatmeal. I mean, it looks and tastes like oatmeal, but it's chia seeds, almond milk, and protein powder. The one that I use is called Orgain. It's organic, plant-based, no garbage in it, no sugar in it. And you mix it up, put that combination in the fridge, and then it congeals, and it just tastes and looks like oatmeal. So it's great for you. Other people may put some nutrients in it, may put some cranberries, etc. But you want to put some of the best and the purest proteins into your diet. And certainly the collagen peptides, you can put that into the, quote, faux oatmeal mix. In some people, we have to correct their thyroid. If the thyroid's low, your hair's going to be affected. Same with DHEA. If testosterone's too high and it's converting to dihydrotestosterone, you want to block that. So there are ways to do that. For some people, we recommend they use the capillus. It's a cap that uses the light to help to stimulate your scalp. Other individuals might benefit from using something called minoxidil, which in tiny doses helps improve your hair. IGF-1, the active component of growth hormone, certainly helps your hair grow, become stable and stronger. So there are a lot of ways to correct this for men and women. So we can do that. It just depends upon what the initial workup shows.
We got some questions. There's a bit of a typo here. So if you hear me, you can clarify this. But it's, so who's purposely making us sick or die mentally and physically? I don't know if there's a question. I think that's a question. But
okay, so we can get really cool
that's
and kooky
rumble
here.
For you, Doc.
We can get cool and kooky here, but it doesn't take too much of a stretch of the imagination to figure out who benefits from people being sick and continually being sick. I mentioned this to a patient today whose husband's diabetic, and lovely lady, and he's stubborn, so we'll get him there sooner or later. He's seen different endocrinologists, and he keeps changing them because he doesn't like what they say. And I know what they're saying. So I said to her, well, what do they say? They say he's diabetic. He needs to take pills, insulin, this, that, shots, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't want that. I said, yeah, but if you don't change the diabetes, it's going to rapidly kill him. Neuropathy, blindness, all the bad things that occur with the excess sugar. So I said, you could bring him in when you come in for your visit, which we do for a lot of people. I don't want to say it's a little bit of a manipulation, but it might be. So if a woman, and typically women kind of get trying to be healthy, men, they're weekend warriors. They want to do whatever and then expect not to have any problems. They don't want to get tested. So with the wives and the girlfriends, they'll come in and we'll go over everything and they do great and they're losing weight. And then the boyfriend or the husband says, wow, you're doing great, blah, blah, blah. So I said, just bring them in for your visit and we'll talk about what you're doing and they'll kind of absorb that. And it may not be that first visit or the second visit, then they want to do it because they realize there are ways to help to improve their function. Men will jump all over this when their erectile function changes because that's the most important thing in their lives. For most men. But when we do it that way, it sort of eases them into the understanding, check the blood work, correct the vitamins, minerals, let's cut the carbs down. And if the wife or girlfriend's doing the cooking and she cooks a slightly different way and uses, lower carb options and cauliflower rice instead of regular rice and grain-free chips, or grain-free wraps, etc., then all of a sudden as the sugar comes down, they start to feel it. And when you feel it, you realize that the bloating's going away. You feel better. You can see the sugar coming down, and now they accept the process. So sometimes it takes a little bit more of a discussion and a little bit more of that visual when they come into the office and see their wife or girlfriend getting better and do that. Now, that being said, has medication ever made a person non-diabetic? And not need medication? No. Meds. So it could be, a pill. It could be metformin. I mean, it could be any number of the pills or the injectables. And then all of a sudden it's another med. And doctors are not teaching people how to do low carb, certainly not telling them how to do or what exercise to do. So if I talk about the whole program, you want to get your carbs below 30 grams a day, here's the handout. Here's a list of foods on a green sheet that shows you all the other things you could have that are low carb and low grain. And I want you to do this much exercise. Start off at a half hour every day. Walk around the block. Do an indoor bike, outdoor bike, weights, whatever you want to do. Pilates, yoga. Every different activity you do is great. Add them so you're doing multiple things. Then get it to 45 minutes. We're going to correct your thyroid, DHEA, testosterone, IGF-1, all of your important hormones. Correct your vitamins. And you watch to see your body improve. We also will test your C-peptide to see if your insulin's making, your pancreas is making insulin. If not, then there's a bigger recommendation of doing stem cells to get your organs to have younger and newer cells to make their hormones and neurotransmitters, and then you've got your biggest chance of becoming non-diabetic. But that's not what the other guys want. The other side of the realm wants to be meds, surgery. Cardiac guy's got to take over. It's just it's a whole big thing. But I'd rather make people non-diabetic.
Crazy. We got a few questions. One being, how can I identify products with synthetic dyes until this thing happens? Are there specific labels?
Yeah,
or codes?
look at the labels. That'll tell you pretty much everything that's there.
I have an app. It's called Yuka. I think that's how you pronounce it. The Yuka app. My wife actually showed me, and you're able to scan things as you're
Really?
walking through the grocery. You scan, and it'll say, this has these forever chemicals. This is good.
Awesome.
This is bad.
YUCCA app?
I believe so. YUCC.
Yuka app.
Yeah.
That's great. Everybody should get that.
YUKA. Yuka.
YUKA.
I think that's how it's spelled. Pronounced.
Yeah, YUK is yucca. I was thinking yucca because that's a plant.
Yeah.
That some people have with, it's a Cuban thing, yucca and mojo. Yucca is a plant, a starch, which tastes really good. And mojo is the garlic and oil that you have with it. And usually you have that with a big piece of pork.
Now, don't get me hungry.
Yeah, and it's hard for Italians not to talk about food. I had a friend that lived in Guttenberg, New Jersey, right near where the George Washington Bridge was, and a whole section. They had all these amazing Cuban restaurants. I would go with him, and they knew him because he was there all the time. His big family, and we'd go there and eat that. And the pork shoulder and the yuca, the mojo was just out of this world. So whenever I hear the word yuca, I'm thrown back in time to when I would go to that restaurant with him.
I love it. And also for anyone else with actually picking out restaurants, there's something called Seed Oil Scout. And this company has basically, they have this automatic script, and they go to their people that are members, and they'll say, hey, if you ever want to know if a restaurant uses seed oils, you call them and you ask them these questions, and they have to answer them. Like, hey, do you use this? Do you use that? And then at the end of it, they send it to the company, and the company puts it on the map like, hey, stay away from this place, maybe do this place.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Smart.
Seed Oil Scout.
It used to be that people would start, asking, do you have, gluten-free grain for pasta or bread? And now you hear it all the time, and you see it in every restaurant. So we have gluten-free, non-GMO. It's excellent. It's what you want to do. You want all the restaurants to say that and do that. I mean, why not?
Even if we have to shame them to it.
Exactly.
Another one.
A little shaming.
As a small food producer, I'm concerned about the cost of switching to natural dyes. Are there resources or this is more business related. We'll see how that shakes up. The food dyes, I mean, it probably costs more. They're using oils, right? It's petroleum
It's hard to
based.
say, and I'm sure that there are some companies that could make products like, beets, obviously natural, and they're that purplish red color. I imagine you could take beet juice and color your food with beet juice. And, different foods, natural foods have their own colors. So you might be able to get natural dyes if you wanted to do that, with the foods. I know there's a company that makes cereal that's grain-free, and it's, healthy. It's 7 Sundays, I think. And they put seeds and nuts, etc., flax, and they use some of the natural food dyes. So that would probably be a good option.
All right, a few here. What's up, guys? We're all over the place. LFA, we love you. Today you have to search for a loaf of bread that does not say contains a bioengineered food ingredient. I wish other companies would come out on a scale offering products like this. That's not a question, but
no, it's a great comment. We love the comment, and my wonderful answer is going to be Julian Bakery on Amazon makes grain-free bread, and there are a few companies now doing this that has nothing in it but healthy ingredients. But go to Amazon, look up Julian Bakery. For a while, they were so overwhelmed with people wanting to buy product and make orders that, it took a little time to get their product. But their products are great. I've had them. It's a smaller bread, a little bit dense, but you can get some of the real natural olive oils or butter to put on that, and you could, use that and toast it and do whatever you want with it in a healthy way. But Julian Bakery makes great grain-free bread, and there are a few companies that do that. But the grain-free bread is a perfect option because there's no grain sitting in your gut all day long, leaching sugars into your bloodstream to create the problem. And a lot of people are allergic to wheat or allergic to gluten. So there are companies that are making these things. Maybe we'll do a whole program on companies that make products that you could get that are grain-free, gluten-free. Siete, Siete, makes great chips and wraps. And who doesn't love chips and salsa? I've always loved chips and salsa.
This guy with
so
two
much
thumbs.
So that I think I may have been Mexican in a former life because I love chips and salsa, and maybe tequila and margaritas. And I'm not a big drinker, but maybe one nice tequila frozen margarita is good. Siete makes great products, so there are a bunch of them out there that do that. So you could have your crackers, and Get Back to Human is another company that makes crackers that are grain-free. Siete is great. Cauliflower pretzels. I wish I had my green sheet with me because I have a list of all the companies. And you can get most of these things at Whole Foods. So go to Whole Foods, go up and down the aisle like I do, looking like an idiot, taking pictures of things, and people walking by looking at you strangely. And go online and go on Amazon and see what you can get that's gluten-free, grain-free, chemical-free.
Love it. Next question: Where are the holistic doctors? Is there a specific title for a holistic doctor?
Not really. The idea and the name, there are different names that have been used: complementary, comprehensive, alternative, holistic. It's just a mixed bag of things. There are doctors who have certain amounts of training that are not medical doctors per se, or like myself, an osteopathic physician who could do everything and anything. There are PhDs, so you want to try to find a doctor who is comprehensive in nature, but will talk about nutrition, testing your vitamins, your minerals, your hormones. Our initial blood test is like 25 pages. There aren't many people at all who do that. There have been a few over the years, and a few of them, strangely enough, have passed away at relatively young ages, and I've known everybody in the realm. So it's not as though there's a burgeoning population of us. It's sort of a dwindling population. And then as many of them get older, they tend to retire. But there's not that many.
People who are not trying to get you hooked on a medicine. It's nice. This is Magpie 4524. What helps fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue? I have tried everything, but nothing helps much. Black seed oils helps with some issues, though.
Well, you can't just take an oil or a vitamin or a product to try to correct something without knowing what the underlying cause is. A lot of people that I see with fibromyalgia and have for many years have Lyme disease and didn't know it because the doctors never thought of testing for that. So we have to test for it. A lot of people have magnesium potassium deficiency. Some people have allergy, but it's a delayed reaction, so it can take up to a week or so for you to have your antibodies bind and then create a symptom. Of course, if you had immediate allergy and you bit into an apple, your lips became swollen, you'd know never to have the apple again. But food allergy is a hidden cause of an inflammatory cascade. Viruses can do that. Epstein-Barr is a very common cause of muscle aches and pains and what's called fibro. To some extent, I have to say that when the term fibro came out, and then weeks later, Lyrica, the drug, was brought out to treat fibro, which was really weird.
Come on.
Yeah. It became obvious to me that fibro was a term to describe many areas of muscle aches and pains, inflammation, again, a constellation of symptoms. I think that was created because there was a segment of the population that had a bunch of these things. Traditionally, doctors didn't want to test them for everything, or maybe didn't know how to test them or look for other things than their normal small blood test. And the drug company said, yeah, hey, here's a new diagnosis. Here comes the medication. So that's why they made that medication, which never really helped anyway. So if you're looking at causes, Lyme disease, virus, heavy metal exposure, allergy, many things, you'll see which things are connected to your fibro or your chronic fatigue, and then we have something to hang our hat on. Then we have something to be able to work with to try to treat. For viruses, we'll use intravenous vitamin C. There's a ton of research on intravenous vitamin C therapy. If you go to Google Scholar and you put intravenous vitamin C therapy in the search box, you'll see 1,500,000, 600,000, 700,000 studies on intravenous vitamin C helping to inhibit cancer, inhibit viruses, including COVID, Epstein-Barr, shingles, herpes, the list goes on and on. So you have to figure out what the cause is before you start doing the treatments, because just doing random treatments can never work because you're not hitting the nail on the head.
And our very loyal viewer, Susan Spencer. I remember you from last week and the week before.
Susan.
Appreciate you.
How are you? Thank you.
And she said that she gets Oro wheat, which is 100% whole wheat bread. And I looked it up. I've seen the logo before, so good to know. I'll keep that one in the head.
Might be good. So, of course, on this side of the stethoscope, we don't really recommend wheat that often. If people have reactions to other foods and they want to, if they can get a really pure source, great. But out of all the foods that I see that are common allergy-wise, grains are sometimes on the highest end of that gathering, that cluster of foods. So more often than not, we tell people to get rid of the wheat, or some people are allergic to gluten. And people that have bloating and digestion, you take the grains out of their diet, all of a sudden it's gone. So that may be good. And certainly if that's working for you, then terrific. But for a lot of people, I think the grains are a big culprit for bowel problems.
All right, let me see what else we got. Susan says she's doing okay. Listen, better than okay. It's Saturday. You enjoy yourself.
We want you to be super duper spectacular.
Yes, exactly. People are just saying, I gotta skip some of these questions, but very based.
That's all right. We take all questions.
Someone's just pointing out, I wonder if there are any people in the Amish community that have, those problems with
No.
autism, and I think we
No.
know the answer.
This has been documented, and I saw a Senate hearing. I've seen a lot of information on this, and what's being said as a comparison is that the Amish population does not vaccinate. They do not have all this crappy food in their diet. They're making all their own food. They're the healthiest populations. Not only can they put buildings together in like no time, which they went down to, what is it, Carolinas, where they had the hurricane?
Yeah.
And they had a whole bunch of Amish people going down there putting up homes for people in like rapid time, like record time. God bless them. No, they don't have autism. They don't. So this is something else that RFK is working very diligently on. So anybody could look at historically statistics of many years ago, autism really didn't exist. And then when you used to see 1 in 10,000 children, were developing some developmental delays. And as you started to see the injectables increase, and it used to be 3, then 5, then 10, then 20, and now they're trying to put 70 injectables on board for children, up in through age 18. It's unbelievable. If you look at aluminum and mercury, thimerosal in injectables, and many years ago they took thimerosal out of eye drops because it was causing cataracts, so they knew thimerosal was bad. And you look at how much mercury and how much aluminum they're getting from multiple injectables, it's insane. You can't ignore this and say everything that is done in this realm is safe and okay, and just because they said so. It's horrible. Now the number of children that statistically are developing the spectrum disorders is 1 in 31. Not 1 in 10,000, not 1 in 100. In the past few years, it was 1 in 100 and something. Now it's down to 131. So this has to change. I think it's just way out of control. And just as you've seen a disaster with the recent 5 to 6 years worth of injectables and what they're doing to damage the body and the turbo cancers and all of this, you have to understand how this is happening. Another study that came out of NIH and CDC that the flu shot, in many cases, gives people the flu, and that people are not covered by whatever injectable they're getting for the bug that's around this year magically. So I'd love to get RFK Jr. and interview him. How great would that be? So, yeah, you have to do your research, look, learn, do what you have to do to understand exactly what's going on.
You say 1 in 31?
Yep.
So basically, that, what was that 10 years ago? What was that? It's like basically
It was in the hundreds 10 years ago. I have something that I took off. I took a picture of. It was a study.
Well, more or less what I'm just thinking is, so if nothing changes, right?
It'll
then
be worse.
Eventually, it's going to be like 1 and 2. Like,
Yep, it'll be
eventually,
worse.
At that rate, it's got to hit it.
This is a study from the Cleveland Clinic. This year's flu shot was ineffective in preventing influenza, and flu vaccination study associated with a 27% higher risk of contracting the flu. Cleveland Clinic.
Unbelievable. What are we doing?
I don't know. I know I took a snapshot of statistics. Just got to figure out where they are. It'll take me a few minutes to find.
You're fine.
But,
Hello, JRP420. I see you there in the chat. To anyone else, we are a live program right now. LFA is live. It is Saturday. It is 3:17 Eastern Standard Time. We are live from New York. And if you want to call in, you want to ask any questions to Dr. Chris, there is the phone number, 888-420-9272. You can call in. You'll be live on the show. As well, you can check out his website right there, drcalapai.com. Right. And we're here every week.
And the Garden City office, for those of you who'd like to call, because we get requests for this all the time, is 516-794-0404. website, drcalapai.com. We're also going to set up a mechanism in the next few weeks for people that can't get to the office, that live distance or maybe can't really get out of their home, etc., where we can do telehealth consults. We're already doing a lot of them now, and sending a lab to get the blood work done if you live somewhat locally. But we'll give you a prescription, get your blood work done so that we could actually go over that blood work with you and maybe set you up even just for the vitamins, like a vitamin consult. So we have all these different things that we're setting up, putting into play.
We got a caller.
A live caller.
We have a caller. It's been a while.
Let's hear the voice.
Can you hear us?
And
Yes, hi.
hi, how are you?
Hi. Good, thanks.
If you could just possibly bring down the volume of your, I know you have the program on, but we get it in a bit of a delay. So just for us to hear you
We can
well.
hear it, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Am I live right now?
You are live.
Perfect.
Okay. Sorry about that. I wanted to ask about anti-aging doctors and
Sure.
what those strategies were besides those stem cells.
Yeah, so that's what I do. And, getting trained in this, back in the 90s and understanding how to evaluate your body and put together things that make your body function and work better is kind of comprehensive. There's no magic pill to it, but if we check your blood work and we look for your vitamins, if your vitamin levels are low, you want those to be on board because vitamins decrease cardiac risk, cancer risk, enhance your immune response, can be great for your bones, your hair, your skin, your nails. So vitamin testing is always important. Hormones, obviously. I don't know what age you are, you don't have to tell me, but as you get older, past your 30s, and your thyroid can drop, DHEA, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, IGF-1 decreases, your body starts to have changes that are age-related changes. Your hair, your skin, your nails, your body may not be burning fat as well. You may not have endurance or strength or exercise. Some of your organ function, your memory can change. So we're tracking each of those organs, all your hormones and neurotransmitters, to see what's happening. You give us your information, your feedback on how you feel. And then as we start to correct your vitamins, minerals, and hormones, you could watch your body improve in these areas. Exercise also will flood your cells with oxygen, vitamins, minerals, and hormones so that you'll deliver them to 100 trillion cells in your body. For some people, we'll do intravenous vitamin therapy. So everybody's a little bit different. If, as you get older, you've accumulated a lot of heavy metals on board, all they do is cause damage. Heavy metals are the same 2 to 3 plus charges as your minerals, and if your metals are getting to the receptors on your cells, you're causing damage and cell death. They call that apoptosis. If the minerals get there, then your cells work well. So we're trying to protect your cellular function, protect your vitamins, minerals, and hormones, and bring them back to where you were at a younger age, maybe 10 or 15 or so years ago. So putting it all together makes all the sense in the world. Nobody really does it that in depth because I've seen what other people do and they're recommending all sorts of things, but not looking at you to correct your requirements. And you have requirements for all of these things. Yes, we can use NAD because NAD you have a requirement for. It's great to take oxygen and make that into 36 molecules of ATP. That's what NAD does, so we may add that. IGF-1, as I mentioned, is great for hair, skin, nails, memory, focus, fat burning, endurance, and strength with exercise, but your body's always had that. And then, of course, as you mentioned, for some people, the ultimate mechanism of anti-aging, and just think about the idea for a moment, is that you're putting new cells into play. And for sake of discussion, if a person's diabetic and their pancreas has been aging and not making new cells and losing the ability to make insulin because the cell counts are lower, you put stem cells in, those cells will go to the pancreas, set up shop, become new pancreatic cells that make insulin. So that's anti-aging your pancreas. So that's really, part of it. And that holds true for any of your other organs, your hair, your skin. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what we start to talk about with anti-aging.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to slow it down a brief moment because you talked about, all these things that decline in age.
Yep.
I'm actually at your office and I'm taking Sermorelin. Hi, it's Gloria.
Sure.
I'm on Sermorelin, which I've been doing the 5 days a week injection and 0.15 Sermorelin.
Good.
You just said a mouthful.
Oh, well.
That increases
Yeah, so
That
you
increases
know about
hormone.
what we're doing. So that really the little chat was for people who have no idea. So yeah, sermorelin is what you
I know
have.
it's so complicated.
Yeah, it's
You
complicated.
said so much.
So your body when you're created, has these hormones to create a result, and so sermorelin we use to create better levels of IGF-1. IGF-1 is the active component of growth hormone, so that helps to
What is
create
IGF-1 again? What
insulin-like
does it
growth
stand
factor
for?
1.
IGF.
Insulin-like
Insulin
growth factor
like.
1.
Okay. And what does that do?
So that's the active
What
component
is
of
it?
growth hormone. When you're a child, it creates your height and your mass. And then as you get older and you're not
Oh.
making as much of it, your hair, skin, and nails will change. Your ability to burn fat will change. Your muscle response to exercise decreases. Your organs decrease in some of their function. So there's a variety of things that happen when you don't have the hormones you've always had. Not too dissimilar
That's
from
true,
thyroid
okay.
hormone. What's that?
Uh-huh.
So you want
No,
to
I
look at
just
all your
noticed I
hormones.
haven't even been exercising, and my arms used to be slim and beautiful. They got very flabby, and all of a sudden they're like starting to look a lot better, like the
see?
tone. And I
Because you're
haven't been
feeding
exercised
them,
or anything.
you're feeding them that substance that creates the fuel to enhance their ability. Now, maybe you're doing a little bit of activity and you're responding. Imagine if you did some exercise every day, and for some people, just light weights in the gym, for women works really well, especially if your IGF-1 levels are good from the sermorelin. So we want you to track yourself week to week and tell us what you see improving. Your nails may be growing faster. Your hair may be a little thicker, growing faster. Your ability to have more endurance with exercise. When you do that, you'll see that. So that's part of the
Yeah,
anti-aging
sounds
protocol
good.
because we're walking your body back to when you had good levels of these things. We're not giving you something that your body never heard of or knows about, like a
Right.
cholesterol drug or et cetera. So we're letting your body fix itself by giving it what you've always had.
When you tested my testosterone level in the office, and it was really low, and I was wondering about testosterone, and mine's low, and what is it responsible for?
Well, testosterone does a lot of things. It's great for mood, memory, concentration, focus. It's good for endurance and strength. It's good for muscle recovery from exercise, sexual drive and function, of course, in men and women. And a lot of people have anxiety. Their testosterone levels are too low. And a lot of individuals now, if you compare women to men, for women, your testosterone should be in and around 40 or 50 on a blood test. Men need to be at,
Okay.
6, 7, 800. So if you take a little bit of DHEA, adrenal hormone, that may get your testosterone to come up to that correct range. If you take the
Right.
DHEA and it doesn't raise the testosterone enough, then we may use a little pellet you take under your tongue. For men, however, DHEA is not going to bring them up to 700, so the DHEA wouldn't work. They would need to take some testosterone. Also, on the IGF-1, the sermorelin, you might see the increase in the testosterone. So that's why we recheck your blood, over the course of month to month to see where you are with anything that was abnormal in your prior test.
And DHEA, that's a supplement?
Correct. It's dihydroepiandrosterone. That's adrenal hormone. It's a stress hormone. But it is sort of the precursor and can stabilize estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. When did we do your blood work last?
About 3 weeks ago.
Oh, okay, so
So I have to come in and see.
wait a little bit longer. But
Yeah.
it really, really important for both of us. Write down week to week, and sometimes you may write comments down day to day as to how you're feeling now that you're doing these things, because I want to see and then document the things that are improving.
Right.
But yeah, you got to start the
It's like
exercise
you
because
said,
you'll
and
feel
even-
awesome.
Okay. I will do it. It's just like you said, though. I mean, I think sexually, you're like, everything's back like it was when you were a teenager again.
There you go.
It's like so much more powerful.
There you go. And it's
That's
funny
true.
because wives will come in first. Women always come in first because they want knowledge. They're taking care of the whole family, the kids, the husband who ends up being like a kid, but that sort of thing. So as soon as the husband sees the wife doing better, they want to come in because they want to, catch up or get to the same level of ability and function. So that's a funny dynamic we see every day. And it's great because now you have people becoming super healthy.
Thank you so much for explaining all that.
You're
it's
welcome,
really
of course.
great. And nice talking to you again.
Terrific.
Yeah, have
Look
a
forward
great
to
rest of
seeing
the
you.
day.
Yes, you too. Thank you for your call.
All right. Bye.
Okay.
Yep.
Bye-bye. It's great. So this is like my whole purpose, to get people interested, stimulate their mind, ask questions. What about this? What about that? Document what you're feeling. And all of a sudden, a couple of months down the road, people say, I can't believe I thought I would never feel good again. And now all these things are happening. So,
And I will
simple.
say, I neglected our YouTube family. I'm sorry we are on Rumble today, but I see Gloria in the YouTube chat. I apologize. I see
There
you
we go.
now. And
Our YouTubers are here.
they're here. I love it. We got some. Antonio on YouTube said, we should beet powder for red color, spinach for green color.
It's simple.
Figuring out the food
Antonio,
color.
exactly. I agree with Antonio. It's Antonio for mayor.
Antonio for mayor.
That's what I'm saying.
And he said beta carotene for orange food coloring.
That's right.
A
Yellow
lot.
peppers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Why
get
not?
it.
So people, and we say this all the time, go and buy that garden device where you can have all your own vegetables inside the house in a perfectly controlled environment, and you can grow foods year-round inside your kitchen or your dining room, whatever you want to put it. It's a great idea. It's not expensive, and you're getting great foods year-round. You don't have to worry about, chemicals, pesticides, things that you don't want in your foods, fake colors, or Apeel, A-P-E-E-L, is Bill Gates' latest crap they're putting on foods, fruits and vegetables, which is bad. So grow your own foods. Let's call them. Let's call Garden and say I want to be their spokesperson.
Honestly, I'm upgrading to a bigger apartment. We're going to have room for a garden. All right.
Absolutely.
And so I'm going to have an unboxing
Have
video
your own
for
garden.
you. I got you. It's coming. It's
Makes-
coming soon.
It's brilliant. Makes all the sense in the world. Could you imagine if all you had to do was just go out and buy whatever proteins you wanted, and you had 30 different varieties of vegetables that you could have that are totally safe and healthy and controlled in your house? Genius.
I think we're reaching out.
Wish I could have thought of it.
It's fine. They're about to be our first ad break.
Yeah.
So don't even
call.
worry about it. All right. What else we got, guys? Rumble. China makes all of our medicine. When are we going to change that? I think there's something going on. I think Trump may have signed something to bring the pharmaceuticals to be made here again to avoid, a lot.
Be genius.
Yeah, I do. I remember. What was it? COVID. We couldn't get like Advil or one of those
So
pain meds. It was all from China.
if people who are put in office to do things and to make decisions supposedly for our benefit are not doing that, and they're selling out to big interests and corporate and other countries, blah, 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 and things are being made everywhere else but here, then you lose any of the control, specificity, quality of product. Everybody knows that. Now, bring it all back here. Bring it back here.
Amen.
That's all I'm saying. Bring it back here, control it, make wonderful products of all types. I don't mind, of course, and who is it? BMW and a couple of the big car companies are building big plants here in this country since the threat of the tariff, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah, Rolls-Royce is one of them. But
People think, oh, tariffs, it's going to make everything cost more. No. The threat of the tariff gets companies to invest here and put plants here to hire our people and to sell their product here. They get it. It's that simple. The tariff is not something that'll change your cost of goods. It's bringing big companies here to hire our people and to get quality product here.
yeah, it's
Every
like,
time I see someone say, oh, the tariff, I'm like, you don't understand what a tariff is. You don't understand what this is.
it's stopping these conglomerate or companies from just from robbing us.
Unfortunately, we've been sold out to other countries, China, of course, for many, many years because that's what the politicians wanted to do, because they get benefit.
Right. It's actually wild because I was like born at this time, right? When that whole thing with China had kind of went through this whole trade deal.
Yeah.
And if you look back at the speeches that were going on back then, it was like, look how amazing this is going to be. Look at how good it's going to be for our small businesses. They're all going to get this huge market of Chinese people, and we get to sell all our stuff to them. And it's like, we fast forward. It's the complete opposite.
Yeah. And you could look at, and people don't take my word or anybody's word for it, go online and look to see what other countries, what they charge us. Because they're not taking our stuff. And they're charging us a ton to import stuff there. We're being beaten down with the tariffs, but nobody thinks about that. Let's just make it even. Oh, you want to charge us 125%? Okay, we'll charge you 125%. Now they freak out because they're selling all their products here for nothing, and we can't sell stuff there because of the tariff. Just even it out. Now see how you like it.
Boom.
We're getting political.
We didn't mean to. We didn't mean to. It's the questions. It's our live audience. It's not our fault. All right. We're still on YouTube, so it's okay. Everyone's just agreeing with us.
No bolts of lightning in the room yet. So
not yet. Yeah, our internet's still going. Haven't been zapped. All right. What else we got, people?
Okay. A question from one of the patients that sent an email. Bob, indigestion and bloating, is it possible that it's food allergy or infection? Well, we could obviously tell the difference. So on the initial blood test we do, which is a big 25-page test, we could look at allergy and see if you have antibodies to certain things. If you do take those foods out, you may see improvement. We see that all the time. Like I said before, a lot of people have bloating because of the grains. Grains are an irritant to your gut, so people that take the grains out feel wonderful. Infection is possible too, but we would need to look at your white blood cell count and some other markers of infection in your blood test. C-reactive protein, etc. Monocytes high, that correlates with virus, but there are ways to test that and see exactly what you're dealing with. All right. 888-420-9272. If you'd like to call in to ask a question, you can do so now. 888-420-9272. Another important thing today that I talked about with a patient, a lovely woman whose husband had surgery for an abdominal aortic aneurysm. He had some back pain on and off, some stomach pain, didn't go away. The doctors told him to take Motrin or antacids and stuff. And at one point, it was so bad he went into the hospital because he looked a little pale. And they found out that he had an aneurysm and they had to do surgery. When they do that surgery, they'll clamp off the two ends of the aorta, put you on a machine that bypasses the blood flow from your heart to the other side of the aneurysm. They'll put a Gore-Tex graft in where if the aorta coming from your heart goes inside the cuff of the Gore-Tex graft, they sew that so the blood flow is not impinged, as it were, if you put the graft inside the aorta. So the aorta goes inside the graft, they sew that. Then on the other side, almost like pipe, they're putting the graft inside the other part of the blood vessel of the aorta, so you have perfect blood flow, no restriction. That's a life-saving procedure. So for individuals that, as they age, have some weird symptoms, you have to think of doing an echocardiogram. We do it on lots of our patients. So I recommend that to look at your heart valves, how they open and close, any change or damage with the valves. Some people have palpitations. You want to look at that. Some people may have a weakening heart. Their ejection fraction decreases. We want to see that. And it tells whether or not you have any aortic aneurysm.
Wow.
So these tests should be done. And we do lots of them on Saturdays. They should be done, and you pick up these things early, and it wouldn't be as much of a problem.
That's crazy. We got some questions. Just bringing it back to our previous conversations with the dyes. I believe it just says, "Are schools ready to adopt these new guidelines? We need huge overhaul with our kids' diets."
Absolutely, I agree 1,000,000%. This will happen. I think is a trickle-down mechanism. Once these things are set, then the schools are going to have to adapt this. You know, whether they like it or not, they're going to have to choose healthier foods and get healthier foods for kids. You know, school lunch is horrible. I remember when a prior president's wife
I was in high school when that was passed. So now I'm thinking
tried to force crappy, horrible food on people and on kids, and it was a disaster. So I guess that was thrown out relatively soon after it was started. But, you know,
it was like they got rid of the sodas but put in absolute junk.
Yeah, because they're not understanding what good food is all about. And I get you've got hundreds and sometimes thousands of kids you have to feed, but there's no reason why you can't get good, healthy food for those kids. And maybe while the school can't grow a garden or do something so that you're growing and kids could learn how to grow food and put gardens at all sorts of schools so that during the season, the growing season, you're getting healthy foods that are grown. You know, the kids would learn how to do this. It's a great idea.
Wow. Could you imagine?
You know, why not?
That's genius.
I'm sure they do it in other countries.
No question. Wow.
Be a great project for kindergartners, for kids of any age. Your school has this program where you're creating the garden, you're making healthy foods, and then those foods are being used to feed the kids. Why not?
And you can make it a whole class, you know, and
Sure.
those people are taking care of it.
Probably more valuable than a lot of the things that, kids are being taught, because that's something that stays with you your whole life. And if you teach a young kid how to create a good garden, they'll do that. They'll do it when they have kids, and on and on and on. So,
Listen, Dr. Chris.
got lots of great ideas.
Superintendent Dr. Chris coming. Watch out.
Yep. Every time I hear the word superintendent, I had dated a girl many years ago, and she was a teacher, and she had to go back to meet the superintendent. And she was a teacher in the school district that I kind of grew up in, and schools got together and blah, blah, blah. So we go to see the superintendent, went back to my elementary school. It was the tiniest building I'd ever seen. But when I was a kid, it was gigantic. The walls, the ceiling, everything was gigantic. And I went back as an adult. I said, wow, this place is like tiny. I take 2 steps into the superintendent's office. I didn't see her name on the door because it was open. And my girlfriend was behind me, etc. And we walked in. I gasped because it was my 4th grade teacher, who was my favorite teacher of all time. And she just gasped and she said, "Christopher Calapai, I always knew you'd walk through that door." My girlfriend's freaking out because she had no idea, and I had no idea that she was a superintendent. And we had a lovely chat. We spent an hour and my girlfriend just never got over that. Gave me a big hug and a kiss. We went over all these things we did in 4th grade. She was the greatest teacher, Carol Scamenti Eisenberg. So I have to give her a little hello. But she was amazing, the best teacher I think I ever had.
And that's such a crazy thing when you go back and you're like, this is so small.
It was just really, really tiny. So, yeah, it was a good experience.
We got Magpie in the chat. She says, thank you for your answer. Hope you have a blessed weekend.
Thank you.
And she asks, what about ancient grains? We love ancient grains. We're Italians here.
Yeah, healthy ancient grains, pure grains, no other garbage are great. You want things that have been safe and that have been around for a very long time. If you start to eat the way that the Europeans and Middle Easterners eat, and you're not eating the junk and the garbage and the manipulated food, you'll be a lot healthier.
Yeah, all of our grains are bioengineered.
GMO.
It's insane. All right, I'm going back to YouTube. Don't worry, I didn't forget you YouTubers. What's your favorite anti-aging strategy besides stem cells?
It's just it's the 3 things I talk about: correcting your vitamins, correcting your hormones, and exercise. As much as you hear people, and there are a lot of people on social media touting individual things, this and that, you need to have all your core required vitamins in great range. If you're 50, you want them to be at the level of a 30-year-old. If you're 60, 70, maybe a 40-year-old. But you want your vitamins to be in really good range so that if mentally and physically you're busy, you have enough to be able to sustain your activities and then some. We never really see excess vitamins on people because we tighten that and control that with what we're doing with recommending them based on your blood test. Number 1, blood test, correct your vitamins, minerals, and hormones, and exercise. Those are the key things to keep your body working well and keep your body healthy. And exercise, flooding your cells with all of those, is anti-aging. And stretching and doing some weight resistance is great for your muscles. As you get older, you lose muscle strength. It's anti-aging. Having antioxidants improve organ function and heart function, anti-aging. Free radical binding with antioxidant vitamins, anti-aging. Free radicals destroy cells. And if this is a brick wall and I keep taking bricks out of the wall as a free radical, that destroys the cell and causes cell death, apoptosis. Antioxidant vitamins stop free radicals, anti-aging. So that's an important core of that. And that's why we're so specific to put together, and now, of course, the custom and tailored vitamin recommendations, the pack, so that you're getting everything you need within 2 packs. And I sit there with and I give myself a ton of work, obviously. I have to go back a few months because I've been telling patients about this and go to all of it's in the computer, all of their blood tests, and click, and put together the recommendations specific to their need. If you need more magnesium, we'll do that. You need more CoQ10, we'll do that. So again, it's based upon your condition and your blood test. So the perfect vitamin recommendations are there.
Boom. Already a thank you. You're very welcome. Bake your bread using jovial incorn flour. Jovial incorn flour. I can't even. JOVIALEINKORN. I've never heard of this flour, and I listen. I'm in the pizza business.
We'll look it up.
I'm looking it up right now. Aha! I think I have seen this before. Okay, it's a company, unbleached. Oh, that's an important thing. Unbleached. When you find out that nothing starts white and everything, it's like, what is? It's unbelievable.
Well, things are made.
Like, what is the benefit?
Things are made to sit on shelves for longer periods of time, and that's why chemicals are put into foods. You don't want to watch the videos on meat production and meat glue and all of that, because you'll never want to eat anything again. But they put chemicals into foods and colorings to make it more appealing, so when you buy it in the store, you think you're getting something healthy.
You're going to like this, Doc.
Yeah.
Jovial incorn flour from Tuscany.
Ooh.
Is 100% organic and offers a healthy alternative to modern wheat. Einkorn is the original wheat, genetically pure and just as nature intended. We like that. That's what
Excellent.
You
Tuscany.
get it.
Favorite place.
Favorite place by far.
Big fan of Tuscany and Super Tuscans.
Thank you, Bordeaux Jewelry. Bordeaux. I'm bad. Bordeaux. I saw one of your dogs, by the way.
Mine?
Not literally yours, but same
Similar.
breed.
Oh, yeah? St. Bernard?
Oh, I literally look. I'm like, don't
She's
tell
a big
me.
mush.
I ran up to. I was like, I have to.
It's
I have
hard.
to pet
It's
you.
hard not to go and just grab them and squeeze them and scratch them, because they're such beautiful, big, fluffy, sweetheart dogs. You know, I never would have thought of getting a St. Bernard. I've had a couple of German Shepherds, and they're wonderful. And Maximus was bigger than Zeus, and Zeus is pretty big. He's 125 pounds, but he's a sweetheart dog, very attentive. Part of the problem is he will just not leave me alone. I go to the bathroom, they follow me. I can't close the door in the bathroom because then they'll knock on the door and they'll drive me crazy. They have to sit on the floor of the bathroom. I take a shower. It's like, you know, my shadows. So when I thought about getting another German Shepherd, because Zeus has gotten older, to have a buddy like I did with Maximus, and I got Zeus for him, I said, oh, let me call around and see if I can get a German Shepherd. And the place that I bought Maximus and Zeus from just became worldwide, and they're charging a ridiculous amount of money for these super trained dogs. So I wasn't going to do that. So I went to pick up Zeus from daycare one day because I would drop him off if I had a long day at work. And petite woman in front of me, we're talking. I've seen her there before, and she's picking up her dog, Moses. I'm like, oh, Moses, cool name. I'm thinking she's going to get Teacup Poodle or a tiny little Jack Russell. Out comes Moses, who's a male 200-pound St. Bernard. And he walks past the little gate. He looks at me, walks right over to me, stares me in the face, tilts his head. I'm like, oh, my God, look at this thing. And I leaned over to him. I scratched his head, which they love, scratching his back. And their fur it's amazing. It's gorgeous, you know, white and tan. And the dog wouldn't leave my side. And the woman's like, he doesn't like anybody. You know, he doesn't go or connect with anybody. So I'm sitting there scratching. I'm like, oh, I got to get a St. Bernard. So that night I went home, brought Zeus back home, got on the computer, called someone upstate, didn't really connect with the person, called a guy in Pennsylvania, really nice, gave me every bit of information, showed me pictures. The first time I saw Delilah's picture, I lost it. I'm like, I got to have it. So I called him back. He drove 5 hours with his wife and pretty much newborn baby and brought the dog to me. I said, you brought your wife and your baby? He goes, yeah. You know, just wanted them to take the ride. I'm like, but it's a little baby. You're supposed to take babies out when they're that young? I didn't know, but he was terrific. And yeah, she's been awesome ever since.
I'm no doctor, but that baby.
I'm like, that's a really little baby.
Oh, wait, I am a doctor.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was totally. And then he'd call and ask how she was doing. And, he's got a great business. I think he sells lots of dogs, but he does a wonderful job with them.
That's one of those businesses when you just know immediately when the person's in it for the right reasons.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We got some St. Bernard fans in the chat.
Yeah, they're just great dogs. And she's not drooling all over the place as people think. Every dog's nose is wet, like Zeus's nose is wet, and so is hers. So now if I'm sitting at the table and I sit outside, I go out in the sun, come back in, and wearing shorts or a bathing suit, I have no shirt on. Of course, when they want attention, they'll stick their freaking cold nose in my armpit, which makes me jump, 5 feet in the air, which is a shock. But, I just got to be careful. I got to see who's sneaking up from behind me. But, yeah, they're wonderful dogs. I recommend them for everybody. They're great with people, too.
Immediately fell in love.
So, Carol from the website, itchy eyes, runny nose, is it infection or allergy? It's not hard to test for that. So blood tests will tell if your white blood cell count is high, could be bacterial. If it's yellow or green or brown mucus, bacterial. If it's high monocytes and clear, fluid, then it could be viral. That usually comes with the temperature. If it's allergy, it could be clear, no temperature, but then you'd see high eosinophils on a blood test, or showing the allergy panel would show that you have some allergies. So it depends upon the testing, and then we treat it accordingly. But a lot of people have itchy eyes now because the pollen is starting to surge. And chronic coughs, all sorts of weird symptoms are popping up. But it's easy enough to figure out how to treat it based upon testing.
I was struggling. We got some wildfires in Jersey. I'm just walking around. I'm like, I'm out of breath. And then it hits me. I'm like, I'm smelling wildfires.
Yeah, yeah. Was it Canada that had those totally man-made fires?
Yes.
Because they all started at the same time in different places.
Yes.
And the prime minister, which I have no good comments for.
No longer.
If you can't say anything
way out.
nice, don't say it.
Yeah.
Can't say anything nice. So, all that's done with a purpose. Whatever the purpose is, and we had that, you smelled all that garbage for a long time. So, won't get into Maui and won't get into the other things. And it's amazing to me because someone made the point that why aren't people more concerned about helping the people with the hurricane in the Carolinas or the people in Maui, but they want to bring back a guy who was convicted and an MS-13 member and et cetera, et cetera? It's just stupid.
Priorities are
I don't get it.
flipped.
Are they trying to be insane so that they think that people will get used to the insanity? It's ridiculous.
Insane.
Okay, rheumatoid arthritis with patient Dave, and has been diagnosed. So this is a scenario where your body makes a mistake and just starts to attack your own joints. Autoimmune thyroid disease, Hashimoto's, you're attacking your thyroid. Lupus, you're attacking a variety of tissues. Your skin, could be your kidneys, lupus nephritis. And rheumatoid, of course, you're attacking your joints. Scleroderma is when your skin gets so tight that you can't even bend your fingers. That's really bad. And that could affect your organs internally. Sjogren's, dry eye, dry mouth. Usually we pick up these things, and I pick them up maybe more than most doctors, because when we do initial blood test, any inkling of arthritis or joint issues, we'll do our arthritis panel. In the arthritis panel, we're looking at autoimmune markers, like rheumatoid. We're looking at C-reactive protein, a variety of things that may point towards why the joints are inflamed. We'll look at allergy, because allergy will correlate with inflammation of the joints to some extent. So these are things to look at to determine what the steps are. So if a positive ANA happens, because that's a blood test we do pretty often, we'll do secondary tests to look at the lupus, the rheumatoid, the Sjogren's, anticardiolipin antibody, double-stranded DNA, RNP, all of these things, thyroglobulin antibodies, to see what's happening. Some people may have a positive ANA and have no medical problems, forever. But you can't just let that happen and wait and see. You want to retest and see if these other things are there. But for rheumatoid, we typically will do stem cell because it works really well to shut down the inflammatory cascade. Oh, also have to mention, I have a note here, Dr. Joe Burrascano is going to be on our program Monday, the 28th. So he's probably the best Lyme physician I've ever seen, and over many years I've gone to all his lectures. He's brilliant. He's retired now, and he retired a few years ago. He's a few years older than me, I believe, but he wrote the recommendations on how to evaluate and treat Lyme disease, and no one was more thorough than his recommendations of what tests to do and when, and how to do this, how to look for this, look for that. Unbelievable protocol, and helped a lot of patients. So I've always admired him. I actually had him over my house once years ago because we had a fundraiser for Governor Pataki. And Pataki was a gentleman, the nicest guy in the world. So an hour before he was about to arrive, we had all these Secret Service guys, cops swarming my property, inside out, all over the property, because that's the safety protocol. And then he came, and Dr. Atkins was there, Dr. Burrascano, a whole bunch of doctors and people that I knew that really wanted to come in to meet him. But we had a great evening. And typically the politicians stay for maybe 15, 20 minutes. Hey, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. He was there for almost 2 hours. Of course, I had a caterer, had some really good Italian food. And Governor Pataki loves Italian food, just like everybody else. So, we had a wonderful time. And he stayed a long time. It was really, he gave me a great, note. He wrote me a note that I have still at home, but it was terrific. But Dr. Burrascano was there. We were talking, and Pataki had Lyme disease. So it was a pretty cool evening. But yeah, Dr. Burrascano is a wonderful guy. He'll do a great interview on Monday.
People are excited in the chat about that. And, maybe we'll even add that onto our episode with LFA the following Saturday. Maybe we'll play clips of that for you.
That'd be great.
Yeah. That would make sense.
I respect him impeccably. There are not a lot of doctors that I respect impeccably, but he went through hell because they tried to, chop him down because the powers that be didn't want him to do what he was doing because he was helping people. So he's a terrific guy.
We got Susan, our girl Susan. She said, I hope you get RFK on the show.
Oh, please.
And she said, those dogs are big. Talking about your St. Bernards. They are not small. They're about the size of my wife.
So Zeus is, I have to give you a recent picture that you can pop up on the screen. Zeus is about 125 pounds. Delilah, she's just, her back is 6 or 8 inches higher than Zeus. And she's got paws are 4 times bigger than Zeus. And she's still growing. Apparently, I think they grow to 2.5 to 3 years, which is going to, eat me out of house and home. I got to buy so much dog food and treats and all this healthy stuff, and it's amazing. But she is a super healthy big dog, and she thinks she's a little dog. Yeah. So I'll go to sit out in the chair. Yesterday I sat out in one of these cool gravity chairs which you lean back and take a little nap. Had some music on, and of course she's got to figure out, wow, what's going on. So she comes over and she'll just put her paws either on my legs, and then she'll put her paws on my shoulders, and her face is right up against mine like, hey, what's happening? What are we doing? I'm like, I'm trying to sleep. What are you doing? But she's always, if I'm laying there, she always wants to come over and see what's going on. And she plays with Zeus all the time. They roll around doing this wrestling thing where they're flopping all over each other. And sometimes, I'll lay down on the kitchen floor, and then both dogs are like nudging me as if they think there's something wrong, and she's hitting me with her paw, which is like getting punched by an adult. Because whenever she wants something, she'll just throw her paw out at me. I've got to turn sideways and do my best karate move just to stay away from getting poked by this dog. But she's big. She's got to be 160, 170.
I got an updated photo. There you go, with my beautiful wife.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's up to her hips.
Great picture.
Up to her hips.
Yeah. So now when Delilah stands on her back feet, she puts her paws on my shoulder. We're face to face, and she likes doing that in the morning because then she'll rub her nose in my face, and that's sort of like a kiss in the morning. It's funny, but true. But she's eating everything in sight. Oh,
the chat's loving this.
Oh yeah, we could do a whole show on her and Zeus. Zeus is chill. Delilah is just, okay, what do I do next? And she just wants to smell and see everything.
We're gonna have him in studio one day.
We've just got to figure out how to do that.
Yeah,
I mean, we should be able to.
might be a little bit of a.
My neighbor is doing work on his house. He's putting up some beautiful trees. He built a gorgeous house behind my house, and he's got a huge amount of property. And Delilah just decides, okay, I'm going over there to see what's going on because he was building a tennis court. And I'm like, no. So I run after her, and she's running around. Neighbor comes out. I'm hanging out with the neighbor, and he loves her. So he goes, let her run around, I'm like, ah. And even I had treats in my pocket. I had to use them to get her to come back. But she just loves running around and seeing everything new. Like everything's new for her. But she's a good dog at all. All in all. Okay, let's see what else we have here.
I'll throw the phone number up one more time if anyone wants to do a last minute call, a last call. She's beautiful, people are saying. She's cute. That's funny.
Yeah.
Lap dog. Yeah, heavy lap dog.
So, yeah, I have a chair that I sit on next to my pool so I can lay out, go in the pool, lay in the chair. And the other day I was walking down the stairs of the deck, and she walks behind me because she always has to be within a foot of me, which sometimes is hard because you go to turn and there's this big side of beef right there in my way because I can't turn left or right, whatever. And I look over the chair, and she looks at me looking over the chair. So she looks up at me, and I go down the stairs. I walk a little faster. She walks faster. I'm like, she's going to race me to that chair. I just knew it. Then I started to stop and, go backward a little bit. She did. Then I bolted to get to the chair. Of course, she's faster than me. She gets to the chair. She flops off the chair. I couldn't sit on the chair. I said, this dog is used to be a human. I'm pretty sure this used to be a human, this dog. So then I took a treat. I threw it. She went to get it. I got on the chair. And needless to say, she came and she climbed up on top of me. So she's laying on top of me and I'm on the chair. I'm going to have an outline of a dog on my chest because, if I get any sun, it's going to be dog outline and I'll have a little
Perfect
tan.
profile.
Yeah. So got to figure that one out. Okay, Janice, she emails, she has issues with being overweight. Diet's really not working. She's tried everything. Usually when people try diets on their own, they're doing part of the picture. They're changing something. They may be taking certain foods out. They may say, I want to lower my cholesterol. I'm not having eggs. Eggs don't raise your cholesterol. I want to lower my cholesterol. I'm not going to have steak, or meat. You could have that. It's not going to affect your cholesterol. So what really works always, is the blood work. But then low carb at 30 grams a day, doing a half hour to 45 minutes of nonstop exercise, and walking the dog is an exercise. Even my dog, I walk them and, they'll stop every 10 feet because they smell something. But you have to do a nonstop exercise for a half hour to 45 minutes, correct hormone decline, correct vitamins, and it works. So you just have to put it all together to create the greatest or the best result or the best outcome.
Magpie says, I think dogs bring something special to our lives, unexplainable but awesome.
Absolutely.
Couldn't agree more.
I agree 1,000,000%. Every friend that I have, and most of my friends have dogs, and they range from all sorts of dogs, and they say that people's personality, sometimes, and the dog looks like the person or vice versa. And if I think of that, I'm like, yeah, it's pretty interesting. So, I just love the interaction with dogs because with cats are like too cool for school. Cats like, hey, leave me alone.
I'm doing my thing.
I'm going to do my thing. Do what I want. And dogs like, hey, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Together. We're going to do this together. Let's go.
And to have one dog that follows you all day long, in the house and outside, not that hard. To have two dogs, if they want to go outside and both dogs are in front of me, I can't reach the door. I got to kind of push them aside to reach the door, push them back to open the door, and then to let them out. So it's always, they say the dog doesn't have to learn. The human has to learn how to handle and communicate the dog. Like, Cesar Millan is always talking about getting people to learn because the dogs, they don't learn the people learn the dog. So however it works. It's all good.
Dog whisperer, I call myself.
I spoke to another doctor who does some great work with hair transplants and things. We're going to talk to him. We'll interview him next week, I think, too, maybe on a Friday, Dr. Malura. So he's got a terrific practice. And We'll talk about the latest with hair protection and hair repair. And for people who need surgical intervention, we'll do that. And we have a couple of patients, too, that we're going to interview. And they'll talk about what they're doing, what their benefits are. So a lot of good things coming down the pike. Okay, so we're 80 minutes, almost 81 minutes into today's program.
Pretty good.
Thank you all for listening. God bless you all. Have an amazing day, amazing weekend. And we'll be back here Monday to chat with you. Bye-bye.